Man, I might as well be watching this with you guys. Let's check it out. This is about Kenya, and Kenya has stopped using the US dollar, bro. And Fox actually talked about it, so I want to hear this out.
So, what happens if our economy and the US dollar are no longer the world's dominant currency? Former Assistant Treasury Secretary and host of the Monica Crowley podcast, Monica Crowley, is here to weigh in. Monica, great to see you this morning. Let's start right there. What happens if these emerging economies move away from the US dollar towards the Chinese yuan?
Ready for it? Clip number 2. Listen to this now. Because what she is going to tell us is actually happening right now. All right? Listen to this.
I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, good morning, Will. It's great to be with you. And it's really hard to overstate exactly how catastrophic the abandonment of the U.S. dollar would be as the world's global reserve currency. Look, since the end of World War II, the dollar has been the safe place to go, and it's been backed up by a couple of things. Originally, it was backed up by gold, but President Nixon took us off the gold standard, so there's no hard asset backing up the dollar anymore for the last 50 years. But also, it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars.
You see it? Oil has always been traded in US dollar. Watch this now. Friends, you haven't seen anything or heard anything yet. Listen.
Bruh.
Also, it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. If that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar. Look, there's a perfect storm happening right now, Will.
If that were to end, nations stop buying and selling using U.S. currency. Nations dumping U.S. dollars, no longer buying and selling oil in U.S. currency. That would bring the end of the U.S. dollar. Is that happening right now? That's the question. Stay tuned. Continue.
And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, who hasn't...
For who? Saudi Arabia. Don't forget that. Continue.
And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, who has indicated that they're open to this, to say, you know what, we're going to be open to considering other currencies to trade in oil. If that were to happen, there would be a complete implosion of the global economic system, but certainly the American economic system. And if that were to happen, you'd be looking at sky-high inflation, just raging Weimar Republic kind of inflation. If you think inflation is bad now, just wait.
Just wait. So since this coming, friend, you know what? No more insertions. Watch this now. What's happening in Kenya? What's happening in Kenya? Saudi Arabia. Are they dumping US dollars as they buy and sell, especially oil? Watch this. Listen.
President William Ruto has put on notice traders holding the US dollar, saying the agreement between Kenya and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia will eliminate the demand for $500 million every month from the Kenyan market.
Did you hear that, my friends? Okay, clip 2. Continue.
2 weeks ago, Kenya signed a government-to-government deal with the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia for the supply of petroleum products with a 6-month credit period.
Yes,
the deal is expected to start next month, easing the demand for $500 million every month that Kenya uses to purchase petroleum products.
I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks.
If you're holding dollars, trading in dollars, dump the US dollar. Continue.
The pressure on the Kenya shilling.
Our fuel companies will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings.
Did you hear that? What would they be using to purchase oil and fuel?
Pressure on the Kenya shilling.
Our fuel companies and will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings. They do not have to look for dollars every month.
Okay, that's
and,
again guessing that's a Kenyan currency.
And when would they do this? When would they start this? In a few weeks. Friend, my point here is, you know what? Let me save that. Let me continue here. Listen.
Hold on. Before you continue, dog, like, why were the news outlets are pushing this submarine business? Now, if you're asking, like, what does it have to do with this? Well, I think they are pushing it because they don't want the world to know that this is happening, because another big Brics meeting just happened recently. And Kenya just announced this thing, bro.
How would this impact us in America? Anybody here from Kenya? Live with us? Watch this. Listen.
But more importantly, we would lose our economic dominance and we would lose our superpower status.
Monica, the world's reserve currency said it's a privilege for the United States for the dollar to have been the world's currency. How does that relate to each individual American? How has that changed or impacted or improved our lives throughout the last several decades?
This is what I want to hear.
Do you want to hear the answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's given the United States incredible dominance in the world in terms of the economic system and in terms of trade. It's kept prices down. So whether it's energy prices, whether it's your food prices, the entire global economic system
at what cost?
And on the safe and secure dollar. But
bro, at what cost? Did you know that I bought the PlayStation 5 higher than an American bought the PlayStation 5? I live in South Africa. Did you know that? That's one of the first things that actually indicated to me, because I actually made the calculations. I was like, wait, $500. Okay, it's $500 in US, but it's like 10,000 rands in South Africa. Why is that? Oh, I know. It's because we're trading in the US dollar. It's because exports much more expensive because of the US dollar. We measure everything with using the US dollar. They got taxes on taxes. I don't even know if I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Let me play.
That is no longer true, again, because we've been printing money like crazy and devalued the power of the dollar and the value of the dollar. But on top of it now, again, oil is the critical linchpin of this. If Saudi Arabia decides to join with America's enemies here and start trading oil in different currencies.
Enemy. They're already calling us enemies, bro. They're calling Brics enemies.
That is going to undermine the entire global economic system. And here at home, you know what it's going to mean for us? It's going to mean raging inflation, so much worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. And I'll tell you.
Oh, my friends, do you see that? Did you hear that, friend?
I heard it.
The signs are here, a perfect storm. How would that affect us negatively? Let's continue. Do you have extra oil in vessels somewhere? Listen, continue.
Worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. And I'll tell you, they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies.
Stop. Oh, my friends. It's the Hegelian dialectic, create the crisis. And you know, the Fed chairman already said, Jerome Powell said, if we want to remain dominant, the superpower in the world, we need a digital currency. And he mentioned the Fed Now payment system, which is baby steps to their own CBDC. Same thing, but different packaging. Same system, but different names.
Okay.
Dump the US dollar, create the crisis. And how will America respond? But in that intermediary time period, how are we going to be affected? Raging inflation, energy prices, food prices, housing, everything you can think of. It's all connected to oil. Continue. Release that.
worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies. Right. If they were to do that, and the United States already has a pilot program, that means the loss of your individual economic freedom, because the government will have total access and control of everything you buy and sell, and the ability to turn it off like that.
And the ability to turn it off like that. Just like that. Look at this, watch carefully.
Ominous warning. I hear you. Saudi Arabia is the tipping point. Oil trading in dollars is the tipping point.
What? Now, he's summarizing the interview. What is the tipping point? It's teetering on the precipice.
Ominous warning. I hear you. Saudi Arabia is the tipping point. Oil trading in dollars is the tipping point. And obvious huge consequences for our economy. Monica Crowley, thank you so much.
With the flick of a switch, they can leave you without a penny in a digital-only economy. How close are we, my friends? I'm telling you, I smell something.
Listen. I'm reading this comment, right? U.S. has forced all the nations to trade with its dollar that has no value against anything on earth. USA is enemy of progressive world. KK Kenya to Brics. Kenya already moved away. The creator talks too much. Are you okay, shut up, bro. Haters. I fucking hate haters, bro. Who the hell is this guy? He's insisting. What the hell is this guy? He's insisting because it's something very serious, but you're taking it as a joke. Come on. Never mind. Okay. U.S. has used other nations for too long. Listen, I've even watched the other clips, man, and I don't mean this video to be too long.
So
I really hate making this video too long, but I do want to go to other clips that I watched today, this morning, in regards to Brics. It's very vital, very important that we watch them. Let me see. No, this is not the one. This must be the one. Let me see this one. Yeah.
All right. Well, Africa is making serious strides to break with the U.S. dollar and the West in general. Many of those moves are happening this week. More than 20 African nations are expected to attend the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. That starts today in Russia. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. But first, watch Kenyan President William Samoei Ruto speaking to Parliament this week, announcing that Kenya will start trading in local currencies within Africa and not the U.S. dollar, as they have been doing for decades. And watch the standing ovation that he receives from this announcement.
From Djibouti selling to Kenya, or traders from Kenya selling to Djibouti, have to look for US dollars. How is US dollars part of the trade between Djibouti and Kenya? Why? And we are saying that today, Afri-Exim Bank have given us a mechanism where traders in our continent can trade in their goods and services, and the Africa Exim Bank will settle payments in local currency. That is why Kenya champions the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System that is done by our own institution, the Afri-Exim Bank. Why, members? Why is it necessary for us to buy things from Djibouti and pay in dollars? Why? There is no reason. And we are not against the US dollar. We just want to trade much more freely. Let us pay in US dollars what we are buying from the US. But what we are buying from Djibouti, let's use.
Dude, there's nothing to buy from the US, dog. There's nothing to buy. Nothing of value there.
I mean, it seems like the simplest
thing,
right? Why do they have to buy US dollars in order to buy goods? In fact, Clayton and I, we were traveling recently in Egypt. And we were looking at the menu and we said, why does this Lebanese wine, which is close to Egypt, why is this so expensive? It's $50. And they said because of import trades. So Egypt cannot trade freely with Lebanon, which is just next door, or Jordan, or they have no trade agreements that the European Union enjoys, or the United States enjoys, or other blocs enjoy. Africa has been prevented from doing that. Well, now they are going forward with this system. What he mentions here is Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. It's called PAPSS. It runs through a central bank that has been started in Egypt. It's called Afra-Exim Bank. Doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, it doesn't flow. They need to come up with a new name.
Now, it is based in Egypt and is shareholder owned. He says it is African owned, but it is also heavily invested in by China. Take a look. This was from 2012, I believe.
This is what the other video was talking about.
They were receiving $850 million from Chinese financial institutions. Well,
Fed whatever
Africa
currency.
has been enjoying Chinese investment for quite some time. The West will tell you this is dangerous. Africa doesn't know what they're doing. They're saying like, oh, you know, these Africans, they don't understand financial products, really.
Right, you got to be scared of the Chinese because they're going to take over everything. They will own you. They will destroy your country. Meanwhile, isn't that exactly what the West is doing?
Right. Well, and also the West benefits from Chinese investments. But we're telling Africans they don't understand what they're doing. I don't think there's anything more racist than that. Like, sorry, you guys don't understand finance. You don't understand that when you're accepting this debt from China, you're really doing your country wrong. But China has been investing in Africa infrastructure for decades. For example, in the Congo, major roads were shelled and destroyed in 1997 by the Rwanda-Uganda-backed army. China repaired those roads in 2010. Now, why would they do that? Here is how Siddharth Kara explained it in his book called Cobalt Red about cobalt mines in Congo. He says that China's dominance in Africa was established in 2000 when President Jiang Zemin proposed the creation of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation to facilitate Chinese investments in African countries. This relationship was billed as a win-win. The Chinese would build much-needed roads, dams, airports, bridges, mobile networks, and power plants across Africa. And in exchange, China would secure access to vital resources to support its growing economy. And that has continued. These roads were built. We're going to hear from a politician who is going to tell us more about that just in a second. Now, Kara, the author of this book, he thinks that Chinese cooperation may not be the best thing for Africa, but not all African leaders feel that way. Just this week, Zambian politician, I'm sorry, it's going to sound terrible the way it comes out of my mouth, Akende Mamembe Chundama. I believe that you can't, it's not like Western last names where you can just use one name. The name loses its meaning if you don't say it in its entirety, and it's butchered from me, and I apologize. But she spoke in Moscow this week about how the West has been exploiting Africa for centuries, and Africa is now demanding autonomy, and they feel like Russia and China are totally acceptable partners as a means to this end. Watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Africa is a hub for natural resources. It has always been for the West. And now Africa has multiple options. Africa doesn't have to succumb to a bad deal that we get from the Western countries. Africa has choice now. Africa now wants to be treated as equals at the table. And now Russia and China offer that to Africa.
All right, well,
Russia and China offer that to Africa.
now she goes on to talk about how the West has no problem toppling governments inside of Africa to get what they want.
Yeah.
We have so many examples.
Listen, I mean, like, okay, the premise of this, I think, is very, very plain clear that the US dollar is going down, and according to all of these videos, it's very clear that the US has benefited a lot, too much from being the number one currency that everybody else traded with, including countries that don't even need the US dollar. We never needed the US dollar in order to trade with another country that is not the US itself. And it would be bad if Saudi Arabia also joined in the party of not using the US dollar, because clearly the US would lose its power, its grip, and that's the one thing I think they're desperate in keeping. And I think that's when the bombing is gonna start. I think that's when they're gonna start bombing some stuff. Some assassinations are gonna happen. Behind the scene woodworks. They're all exposed now. We know what they're gonna do, but they might as well. they might as well do it. They might as well do it. They're not gonna be discovered, right? They're gonna commit the crimes. But guess what's different this time? This time the difference is there's a lot of countries doing this thing. There's a lot of countries backing up this motion. There's a lot of countries that are gonna go ahead and do this thing because everybody is of one sound and one mind. And they have a common enemy, which is the US dollar itself. Nobody wants to trade with the US dollar. Everybody wants to trade value for value. Now, about this central bank online currency thing, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. But the fact that one organization, one whatever, is going to be controlling a whole flipping currency that is going to be traded universally, I don't think that's good. I think we don't want to lose our individuality that much, to be honest with you. I think the best thing for all of us here is to take things step by step. At first, the African continent needs to pick itself up. Every single country needs to pick itself up. We all need to stand on our own 2 feet in order to be recognized and to trade fairly and equally, and not have the US take from us all the time. They keep taking. They all the time. They just keep taking, bro. Their business has left us with high inflations. Okay, they don't care about that, by the way. They don't care about that. They don't care if we have to pay things higher. I got my job, and I never really felt the blunt of inflation that much. I'm only gonna recognize as prices go down how much I was missing out on. I'm only going to recognize as time goes by, oh, okay, so this is how things should be done. Oh, we were being bamboozled all this time. All this time, we were being bamboozled. Now look at y'all. Y'all are going down. And y'all don't like it. Y'all will never like it. Y'all have assassinated, y'all have bombed countries. Y'all have killed multiple people to get where you are today as the U.S. nation. And y'all have put yourself as the pinnacle of righteousness. Y'all made yourself look good, man. They made themselves look good, and they fooled us for a long time. They fooled a lot of people. They're still fooling people today. But the honest truth is that, everybody is on to you. And I'm not talking to the U.S. people, to be honest with you. I'm talking to the U.S. government. Because sometimes the government is never the people. If the people knew what the government was up to, all hell would break loose. And by the way, like I said, linking this to the whole tank submarine thing and whatnot, I personally believe, maybe y'all can disagree with me, I personally believe that story is one of the stories that is pushed out there just so we can not tell the people what's actually happening. It's like, yo, the US is about to drop the US dollar is about to drop like flies. And not to mention there's going to be high inflation prices out here. We're going to lose our grip. Yeah. This is going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And I support that because it's fair. It's only fair, man. Do you realize how screwed Africa has been? We've been going down the drain. Even South Africa has been going down the drain, bro. For a while now. All because of the bullying of other nations. And by the way, I don't think any of our political leaders are dumb enough to think that other nations are saviors. They're just giving us a better deal. It's business. But guess what? They're not killing anybody for this. They're not doing something immoral for this. They're not taking people's lives, bro. They're not putting people on the US was literally gonna watch us go down. I have no sympathy for them losing their power, bro. I got none.